Hey everyone, a huge welcome to Steve's Kitchen. You know I love playing with my food. The other day I was plaiting a loaf and I thought, wouldn't it be cool if there were flavors inside the plats? Well, I've come up with this loaf here. It's basically Nutella, peanut butter and jelly inside the plats themselves. And I've baked it really dark to this chestnut brown so you get a lovely caramelized flavor. I'm going to show you how to make this now. Come on, let's have some fun. Now the dough we're going to be making is an enriched dough. I'm still starting with 450 grams, that's about a pound of strong flour or bread flour. But into that we're going to add 2.5 ounces, that's about 70 grams of regular sugar. I'm going to add about an ounce or 30 grams of butter, that's an unsalted butter, 2 teaspoons of instant yeast. Now I'm using instant yeast. If you use a different yeast, follow the instructions. A little pinch of salt. I've got 2 egg yolks here. I've also got 180 mils or 3/4 of a cup of milk. That's full cream milk, which I'm going to warm slightly. Now I've got my flour in a mixing bowl and I'm going to do this by hand. It just seems simpler to me. You can certainly do it in a stand mixer, but it's easy to do by hand. Now I'll just pop my yeast on one side of the bowl and I'll put my salt on the other so it doesn't kill the yeast. My sugar goes in next. Now that butter I've actually melted. It's better if it is melted. Just pop that in there. And in goes my milk, which I have warmed slightly in the microwave. And finally my 2 egg yolks, one of which has broken. Then I'm going to start this dough off with a fork. I'm just going to draw this mixture together just to keep my hands clean. Then I'm going to draw that off the fork and get my hands in there now and start to pull this dough together. Now as that dough starts to come together and pull away from the side of the bowl, we're just going to lift it out onto our countertop, clear these bits out the way. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to start kneading this dough with the heel of my hand, pushing and stretching. At the moment it's quite gritty and we're looking for a nice silky texture. This should take about 10 minutes. And as I say, you can do stand mixers, but really doing it by hand is how you learn how the dough feels. So I urge you to give it a try. Now I found in the past when I'm making this dough that it can vary in how dry it is depending on the size of your eggs. So I keep a little bit of warm milk in a cup. And if you feel your dough's a little bit too dry, you can just dip your fingers into the cup, rub it onto the dough and carry on kneading. You wouldn't be adding a lot of milk into this, just maybe a tablespoon or so, until you get a nice texture. And what we're looking for is something a little bit, I don't know if you can see that, but it's a little bit sticky, but fairly dry. And that is why this is best done by hand, because after 10 minutes I've added a little extra, maybe a couple of tablespoons of milk into there, and we've got this wonderful elastic dough. It springs back nicely like that. Still a little bit sticky, and we're going to pop this back into our mixing bowl. A little splash of oil in there first, about a tablespoon, and I'm using vegetable oil there. I'm going to coat that dough over, and I'm then going to trap the moisture in there by covering the bowl with a little bit of cling film. We're going to put that in a warm area for a couple of hours or until it's doubled in size. So you want to be patient, let that come up nice and big like it has there. I'm just going to take the cover off that now. And you'll see that this dough is lovely and elastic. Now we just want to punch that down for the moment. We're going to bring that out onto a warm surface, not a cold surface. And then we want to divide this up into 3 equal parts. Now you probably want to weigh this to make sure you're reasonably accurate. So 2 pieces of that dough I'm just going to pop back into the bowl. I'm going to work with this first piece. What I need to do, we're just going to roll this out into a sausage shape. So I'm not going to work this too much because we're going to be rolling this out into an oblong shape. I find it best now if we pop a little bit of flour down on our countertop or whatever you're working on. We are then going to take a rolling pin and start to work this dough into a long oblong shape. And you're going to have to rest it occasionally because the gluten wants it to spring back together. So we're just going to continue to tease this piece of dough out using the pin and your hands until we get probably about 6 inches wide. Now once you've eased it out like that, what we're going to do is I'm going to start with my Nutella layer. Now I've got a pot of Nutella here and I want to pop some chocolate on to the bread and be fairly liberal with this. We don't want to be, we want plenty of Nutella on there. Now I don't want to come near the edges of the bread. I want to leave at least an inch all the way around. Right, when you've got your Nutella on there, I've got a little bit of warm milk here. I'm just going to brush the ends with some warm milk and around the sides. And then what we're going to do is we're going to take this bread now and just roll it, just fold it over, and then continue to roll it up on itself until we get one nice rope. Pinch this last edge together. We're just going to seal this along with the milk. Now I've got a baking tray here which I've lined with a little bit of paper because this does tend to stick, and I'm just going to lift that on there. Now don't worry if it runs off the end like that, because we will be plaiting this and it'll get a lot shorter. The first one, the Nutella, is done. Let's get on and do the jam and the peanut butter. Okay, I've got the next two pieces of dough stretched out there. Now this one is going to be peanut butter. It's a little stiff, this peanut butter, but I'll get it on there. Same as before with the Nutella, we want to spread it and leave that inch around the outside. Now I've gone for crunchy. You can tell me down below whether you prefer smooth or crunchy. Crunchy is my favorite. We're going to brush that milk around the outside, and then I'm going to roll this one up the same way I did with the Nutella. Now this last one's going to be raspberry jam. Now I don't know what's your favorite jam, tell me down below. Raspberry, I love raspberry jam with peanut butter. Can you imagine how good this is going to taste? I've had them before, so I do know. So now I've got my 3 ropes of bread all hanging down the end here. What I want to do is take that first little bit here and just pinch it together. We want to seal those bits of bread, and I'll just tuck them under. And then what we're going to do is we're going to use a traditional plaiting technique. I'm just going to bring the right hand one over this one, move this one off to the side, then this one over into the middle, and the right one over again. Now it's a little bit messy because I'm filming this. My dough has started to dry out a little bit. And there you have it. There's the final plaited loaf. Now the last thing I'm going to do, I've got 1 extra egg here, little pinch of salt into it. Just going to whisk that up. And then what we're going to do is take some of this egg. Now don't get too much on the brush. We're just going to lightly brush over this plaited loaf. Now we're just going to set that aside for half an hour or so until it's bloomed a little bit before we pop it into the oven. Now there it is, that's been 30 minutes and you can see it's bloomed nicely. But before that goes in the oven, I'm just going to very gently brush some more egg wash over the top. Now I've preheated my oven to 180 degrees Celsius, that's 350 Fahrenheit. And I'm looking to bake this till it's a wonderful chestnut brown, a really dark brown. So I'm going to leave it in there for about 30 minutes, maybe 40 minutes. Just keep an eye on it. We want that beautiful golden brown. And in the little crevices in there, we want it to be baked all the way through. Now will you look at that, I've just brought that out of the oven. You see that beautiful golden brown? Now you might be tempted to take this out after the first 15 or 20 minutes because it looks like it's going brown, but we want all the brown in those little crevices and we want this wonderful chestnut color. Trust me, you're gonna love it. Now I like to take a little bit of sugar water and just brush over this bread when it comes out of the oven. It's still hot. It's gonna give it a lovely shine as it cools down. Now you look at that, it has cooled down, or at least it's still a little bit warm. The house smells delicious and this looks superb. And if you look, it's got this lovely crust on it. This is going to taste so good. I'm going to take a slice of this now, let you know what I think. So here goes, let's cut through. You know it's going to be delicious. Come on. Look at the chocolate on the knife. The Nutella's coming through there. And there is the twist bread. Oh, that smells so good. I'm going to cut myself off a slice, a second slice. See, now I can see the peanut butter, the jelly in there as well. Oh, it's still really hot as well. What would you put on this? You can't really put anything on this. You've got everything you want on there already. Let's give this a try. Oh, that is so good. And you can be creative, use different toppings. You could even go savory on here, maybe some lemon curd, anything you like. I'd love to hear your comments down below. In the meantime, please share the love, give this video the thumbs up. I'll see you next time. Oh, I just got the peanut butter and jelly as well. That is so good. I'll leave some links to some other videos here. I'd love to hear your comments, and of course, subscribe to the channel, stay in touch, be good. See you next time. Cheers.